Most people like to overcomplicate change. They feel like it's something that's reserved for a select group of people and totally out of reach for them. Or when they do finally set a goal, they're so dependent on motivation and willpower that when those resources run out, they give up. They fall back to their old patterns and they say, you know what? This is just how I am. I guess I'm just stuck. And what this fixed view of ourselves misses is the truth. And the truth is, each and every one of us can change. We can change our habits, we can change our thoughts, we can change our beliefs, we can change the way we're showing up in the world. And if you look at any transformation, no matter how big or how small, what you'll see is that there's 5 simple steps that each one walks through. And by applying these 5 steps to your life, not only will you start to see progress, but you'll start to see that, hey, you're tolerating far less than you deserve, and you can start moving in the direction of your goals. Now, my name is Brian Pickowitz. I'm one of the head coaches and co-founders here at The Fitness Project, where we focus on building fit and healthy leaders. Our goal is to help burnt-out professionals discover the habits and daily rituals that not only help them be in better shape and better health, but really show up as the leaders that they know they need to be. Now, over the last decade, we've helped over 1,000 clients. And through that process, what we've discovered and what we've seen is that most people don't struggle because of strategy. Yes, it's important to know the specifics of working out and how you need to fuel your body, and those planning principles are valuable. But that's not why most people fail. Most people fail because of their psychology, their beliefs, their thoughts about their progress, the way they view themselves, their identity. All these factors interlace with our daily rituals and keep us from really making progress in a meaningful way. And so not only have I discovered this through our coaching, but I've also discovered it about myself. I grew up in a small town of 750 people in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. And the views that I was surrounded by were, hey, this is just how life is. You get a job, you become an alcoholic, you get addicted to drugs, you don't really leave your town, there's nothing for you. And I knew that I wanted something more. I wanted something greater. I wanted to be something more than what I was told I had to be. And so that process and that evolution led me to discovering personal development, human psychology, studying human behavior. And these principles I'm going to share are lived principles. There's been so many different areas of my life that I've known, like, oh, I didn't understand how to approach money. I didn't understand how to approach health. I didn't understand how to approach relationships. I didn't know how to process my emotions. And at each stage of awareness, I saw there was an opportunity to change. And that didn't mean I had to be perfect. And like, this doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. But what it did mean is once I became aware of something, I no longer could tolerate it. I had to be persistent. I had to have faith that it would be better on the other side if I just kept pushing through. And so this isn't one of the steps, but the first principle I would give you is that if you recognize that you want to change, you have to persist. You have to move forward. You have to have faith that there's something greater for you. Because if you don't have faith that there's something greater for you, there's no reason to change. There's no reason to even make an attempt. Now that we've covered that, persistence, faith, the motivation will come in time if you just keep taking action. Well, how do you actually change? Well, I kind of already alluded to it, but the first thing is you have to be aware. Awareness is key. You can't change what you're not aware of. Think of your car. If you're driving down the road and that light doesn't come on that says, hey, we need gasoline, you probably aren't going to stop unless you go and check. Right? Those tools are there because they give you awareness that there's something that needs to change. And so you can think of awareness in your own life as, oh, I'm aware that I could do so much better. Or I'm aware that this habit's no longer serving me. I'm aware that there's some consequences if I keep living this way. I'm aware that I'm unhealthy. I'm aware that I really don't like myself. I'm aware that I'm lonely and I don't have a partner. Whatever you see, that's the first step to change. Even for myself, I think of different habits that I've broken. And one of the most impactful habits, or the best example, was how I approached money. I grew up with not a lot of training around money. And so when I started to have a little bit, I didn't know where to put it, so I'd spend it. Whenever I was hungry or feeling anxious, I would go get a protein bar and a diet soda. And I ended up looking at my receipts at the end of the year and seeing that I spent something like $4,000 or $5,000 on diet soda and protein bars. Yikes. Now, up to that point, there was no consequences. But I started to get some mentors in my life, some people who started to talk about how to spend money and where to invest and how to think about money. And I realized like, oh, there's some real consequences here if I don't change this habit. So that first step was building awareness of what I was doing, what was wrong, why it wasn't going to serve me, and that was the first step to change. Now, you might be in your own season of building awareness where you're recognizing like, oh, I really don't like the way I look. I really don't like the way I feel. I don't like the fact that I keep doing this thing. Awesome. Don't judge yourself. First key, be aware. Don't judge yourself. We'll talk more about this in the process, but once you become aware, you have to also start being curious, right? That's not the second step, but you have to start to practice curiosity, which means when you see it, instead of judging it, you have to become curious about why you're doing it. Is that helpful? Do I want to stay this way? And once you analyze that enough, you can move to the second step, which is to set an intention. Now, intention is a goal. Intention is a focus. Intention is something that you're going to move forward towards, right? If you recognize that, hey, I really don't like that I'm 50 pounds overweight, and I really don't like the way my clothes fit. I really don't like the way my body feels. Awesome. The second step is to say, well, what do you want? How do you want to feel? How do you want your body to look? What is your intention for your health, your body, your goals? What is it you're focused on? Most people stop at awareness. They say, well, this is just how it is, or this is the way it is, and they never take that second step. Once you take that second step, you start to see the world differently because now you're filtering out what's not important. Your goal becomes a filter for what is important. It engages what's called your reticular activating system. And your reticular activating system is the way that your brain filters out important information and non-important information. And so if you say, I am not healthy, and then you start to say, I need to start getting healthy, what you'll realize is that you'll start looking at your world a little bit differently. Maybe you'll start to see more healthy foods, or you'll start to see and hear people talking about working out more. Maybe you'll notice things that you didn't notice before. Have you ever been in a room where someone started talking about the thing that you like, and even though they're on the other side of the room, you can hear them and you're in a conversation right here? That's your reticular activating system. It's your brain's way of filtering out what's not important and what is. And so you need to start setting an intention. For me, in my example, I became aware that this habit, this spending, this nutrition protocol was no longer serving me. And so I set the intention to remove it. I had a savings goal, I had an investing goal, but in order to do that, I had to remove this one behavior. It's pretty hard though because you always need gas. You always drive past gas stations, and that was the pattern. I would stop at a gas station, get gas, grab a protein bar, grab a diet soda. If I was feeling anxious, hey, I'm driving past a gas station, I'm going to grab something, boom. It was just so set that whenever the cue was there, I automatically would follow through. Okay, so the intention was a savings goal. Every time I started to remove this, $5, $7, I saw it as something I was saving towards. So I started to move that money. Long story short, that was the intention, was to improve my savings, to improve my money mindset, to also stop putting chemicals in my body because diet soda, the volume I was drinking it, was no longer healthy. Okay, awesome. So I have awareness, I have intention. The third step is to then take action. And the book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg talks about the golden rule for behavior change, which is take a new action. You can't always control the cue, which is the trigger, the thing that activates your habits. You can't always control the urge, right? The way you feel before you do something, but you always get to control your behavior. You always have a say. And so right now, you can think, I'm aware, I start to set a goal. What do you want to do? Are you going to work out? Are you going to walk? Are you going to start tracking your food? What is the action that's going to move you towards that goal? For me, as I started to discover more about habits, I read Atomic Habits, I read The Power of Habit. I saw that every habit starts with a cue, there's a trigger, and that leads you to an urge, there's a feeling, and then there's a behavior, an action, and then there's a reward. And the reward is the end goal of every behavior. We only do things that are rewarding. Even if it doesn't feel rewarding in the long run, it meets some of our current needs, emotionally, physically, whatever you want to call it. So for me, I would recognize the cue of gas station. I would feel the urge of going into the gas station or grabbing a diet soda. And so the behavior was to not grab a diet soda. But that's too willpower based. So the first step for me was continuing to build awareness. I wanted to be mindful. I wanted to practice mindfulness. So I would go to the gas station. I would observe how it felt in my body, the urges. There's a term called surfing the urge, where you start to become more aware of how you're feeling, the thoughts that you're feeling, the practice of being engulfed in that urge, and you just surf with it. You just move with it. You don't have to engage with it. You just become curious. And what was great is I would recognize this desire to move towards the diet soda. And so some days I could avoid it, but some days the urge was just so powerful. And what I would do is I would go and grab the diet soda. I'd pick it off the wall or the section, and then I would put it back. Some days I didn't have as much motivation though. So what I would do is I would take it off. I'd say, you know what, I'm going to get it anyways. And I would be like almost like playing that game with yourself in your head where like, you don't need it, you need it, you need it. Oh, well, you've had a hard day. You've been really doing a good job. You don't need it. That was what was happening in my head. And so I would walk up to the counter and I'd say, hey, 25 on pump 6 or whatever. And if the cashier went to go grab the diet soda, I'd say, you know what, I'm going to put that back. I would take it back. And then after I paid, I would go and put it back to where it needed to be. And I repeated this pattern again and again and again. And so you can start to see that oftentimes we think that the action has to be just workout. But what we really want to do is we want to establish a keystone habit. And a keystone habit is the small habit that leads to the bigger habits. And so for me, I would recognize my whole habit cycle playing out whenever I was in a gas station. And the most important keystone habit was just not paying for the soda. Just not paying for it. Now, I'm not advocating that you steal. But by being able to walk through the whole cycle, I still felt a lot of those same feelings of certainty or soothe or whatever it might have been what I was really desiring. And then, as it came to that moment, I would take it and put it back. So for you, maybe the action is change your clothes after work into your gym clothes. Maybe it is getting the workout in. Maybe that's enough to push you forward. But the key is knowing that the golden rule to habit change is just take a new action. It doesn't have to be the perfect action. Take a new action. Test it. See what works. This is what worked for me. For you in your own example, it might be something totally different. It might be the way you eat. It might be the way you sleep. It might be where your phone is. You can always take a new action. So you got to be inventive with this. You're going to have to test some things. And that's what leads us to step 4, which is you have to celebrate or you have to adjust. One of my favorite quotes from James Clear is behaviors that get rewarded get repeated. And so if you think of the end goal of every habit, it's to receive a reward. Now, from a neurobiology standpoint, it is the dopamine hit that we get when we meet our goals, but the reward is also a change in state. I wanted the diet soda because it was something that told me like, hey, you can calm down. You can have a little bit of enjoyment. On a stressful day, it was relief. On an exciting day, it was a celebration. There was all these different rewards I was getting from this behavior. Once I realized that it was so hardwired into my psychology, I started to condition a new reward, and that was what the celebration was. So every time I would put it back, I would remind myself, I just saved $7. Every time I put it back, I would remind myself, I am becoming someone who is disciplined with their money. Every time I put it back, I'd celebrate. I would drive in the car and be like, you did it. Hell yeah. So important. When you do the right thing, you need to tell yourself you're doing the right thing. So many people, they do the right thing and they beat themselves up because they say, shit, I should have been doing it the whole time. Why did I do this so long ago? I can't believe it. And that keeps them stuck because they don't ever make progress. The only way you're going to make progress is if you celebrate the progress along the way. Now, here's what's really important. If you take action and it's not the right action, does that mean you're a failure? No. It just means you need to take a new action, right? And that's where adjusting comes in because you're not going to always have the right approach. For me, I'm making this a very simple story, but I guarantee if I was to go back and observe myself, there's probably months of thinking about this, observing it and seeing it. It might have been years. And so I had to find a new pattern and adjust it along the way. There were still times where I would give in. That will happen. There'll be times where you have every intention to eat healthy, but you get so stressed and then something happens. You're like, you know what, screw it, I just want this. Awesome. Screw it, I just want this. Adjust. Maybe you only eat half. Maybe you eat a little bit. Maybe you say, you know what, on the second thought, I know that I was going to order the pizza. Can you just give me a salad? You get to control yourself. You get to have a say. So if the plan is not working, adjust the plan. Do not give up on the goal. Don't give up. There's no reason to. You can adjust your plan. You can adjust your approach. You have a say. And then when you adjust it, celebrate. It's so important. And then the last step follows this whole cycle again and again and again, which is you condition the new behavior. To reference James Clear again, in Atomic Habits, he states that every action you take casts a vote for the person you want to be. And so every time you take that action in alignment with your intention, celebrate it, condition it, condition it, condition it. If you want to be a healthy person, take actions like a healthy person. And every time you do, you condition that this is who I am. This is the kind of person I am. This is the kind of person I want to be. You condition the behavior, and then in time, it just becomes normal. It becomes a part of who you are because you start to see the world differently and you see yourself differently. And so if you want to be someone who values your health, eat a certain way. Tell yourself, I'm eating like a healthy person. I'm doing the things that a healthy person does. True change is identity change. Most people make the mistake of thinking if I just set a goal and I just do the thing, it will work into my spirit. It will work into my psychology. That's what they hope. They'll just become a part of who they are. But if we ask, who do I need to be in order to get my goal? Well, I would need to be this kind of person. What is that person? What is that identity? Okay, what would that person do? Well, they would eat this way. They would train this way. They would ask these kinds of questions. They wouldn't beat themselves up. Okay, and if someone did that, what would they get? They'd get to their goal. Think of someone who is a winner or a champion. They don't just say, I'm going to win the Super Bowl and here are all the things they do. Their psychology is that of a champion. They say, no matter what, I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to focus. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to work harder than everyone else. That is who they are, and that's why they get to where they want to be. You can do the same thing in your life. You can do the same thing with your habits. You can do the same thing with your mindset. You can change anything, but you have to condition it. Just like a muscle, right? You don't go to the gym and get strong over a day. It's taken me decades to get to the point where my physique is where it's at. And quite frankly, at this point, it's just about maintaining. When I was younger, man, I was always in the gym, conditioning. I can maintain a pretty good physique without a whole lot of effort because of all the effort I put in the beginning. If you're someone who does that with your health, it's really easy to maintain in time. If you do it with your relationship, now you always have to be putting energy into your relationship, but if you really focus on building a healthy, strong relationship, that foundation is going to carry with you because of who you are. Same with your finances, same with any area of your life. And so when you start to do something, you have to remind yourself you're doing the right thing. You have to condition it again and again and again. If the reward for your behavior is, I am becoming the kind of person who does this thing, in time it just becomes normal. And to draw back to my example, every time that I left the gas station, I said, I'm becoming someone who's wealthy. I'm a steward of my money. I am a steward of my abundance. I am disciplined. I value my growth. I value my discipline. I value my relationship because when I have more money, man, I could do so much more in my relationship. It became something that I hardwired. And I think I did this, I was 22. Within a year, I had a few $1,000s saved and invested, and then it just kept compounding and compounding and compounding. It built up from there. And I think that's the key, is you're never far behind. A lot of times people feel like, oh my gosh, I'm too far behind to make a change. It's like, well, you're going to be here for years, decades, maybe multiple decades. At this point, who knows? Maybe it's 100 years. Wouldn't today be a good day to start? One of my favorite quotes is, the best time to plant a tree was 10 years ago. The second best time is today. And so I hope that you can use these 5 principles in your own life, that you can start to see that, yes, if you're building awareness, the second thing you have to do is you have to set an intention. You have to then take action from that intention. You have to either celebrate it or adjust. And then once you celebrate and adjust, you got to condition it. Repeat. The more you repeat it, the more it becomes a part of who you are. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it simple? of course. And if you look at any change that you've already made in your life, I guarantee it follows these same 5 steps. And so I hope this is helpful. I'd love to hear your big takeaway in the comment section below. And also love to hear if you have any questions, ask them below. I'd love to give you some feedback and see if we can continue to support you in your growth and in your journey. But thank you for being here. Like and subscribe to this channel so you can get more content on growth, on health, and how to really become the fit, healthy version of you that leads from the front. On that note, go out and conquer your day. Cheers.